Sure. כן, בסדר.
교수님,
네.
혹시 시작 전에 간단하게 말씀하시겠어요?
그냥 해요.
아, 그냥, 네, 알겠습니다.
저 김선아 양반이 안내 인사하고 그냥 시작해요.
네, 그렇게 하겠습니다. 이거 큰일 났네. 왜 소리가 없지? Hello, everyone. Hello again. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes,
Yeah.
good. Okay. So I started YouTube streaming. So HGU students who are interested in this topic will watch this lecture on YouTube. And we Okay, can you hear me well? We have a howling problem here.
I can
I
hear
can
you.
hear you.
Okay. Okay. 이어폰. Okay. 저 이어폰 있어요.
지금
저한테.
유니쌤 쓰고 있는데.
혹시 저한테 줄 수 있어요? 이거를
이거 빼면 또 생길걸요?
괜찮아. 이거 그냥 꺼야 될 것 같아. 그냥 랩탑을 최소화하는 게 좋을 것 같아요. 자, 한번 다시 제가 트라이 해볼게요. 오케이. Okay, as we fellow researchers, our fellow researchers join the meeting, like in a place. I think we have a howling place problem. Okay, can you hear me well now?
혹시 이어폰 안 넣어도
저 아이고 계속.
Need to unmute.
Sorry for the technical problem. Okay, everyone unmute, right? Yes. Okay. No, it keeps coming. Need to move. 제가 Okay, let me start. So welcome to the monthly lecture on international development cooperation. I am Sona Sonia Kim, researcher from Handong Global University. As you all know, this lecture is organized as part of the UNESCO Unitwin project. So Handong Global University has been the host university of UNESCO Unitwin Network since 2007. And we implement educational programs to strengthen the capacity building of sustainable development in developing countries. Today, we have not only research fellows, but also a professor, Professor An, and also audience of ATGU students who are listening this lecture through YouTube. This month, 2 guest speakers from Kenya and Israel will give presentations on sustainable agriculture. So the first speaker will be Mr. Alfred Yeboah from Grameen Foundation. And the second speaker will be Aviai Ilan from Israel. He's a consultant on agriculture and a former expert in Mashav. So let's welcome Mr. Alfred, our first speaker.
Yeah, thank you, Sonia. As you indicated, I'm the regional director for Africa Grameen Foundation. I'm Ghanaian and I'm actually based in Accra, Ghana, not Kenya. So I would actually start my presentation One, by looking at the Grameen Foundation model. That is how we work globally. Grameen's work actually was inspired by the work of Nobel laureate, Professor Mohamed Yunus, who is the founder of the Grameen Bank, and then also a global leader in the fight against poverty. Now, the lesson learned from Grameen Bank is that when the rural poor, especially women, have access to the right resources and support, they have the capacity to free themselves, their families, their communities from poverty. And we also know that the many problems that we have actually call out for integrated approaches, and we work to ensure the solutions that we develop actually match those problems. This we do by integrating digital financial services, health, and agricultural elements in our programming, and we will strengthen the resilience and improve the livelihoods of women and households, and also ensure long-term sustainability of their breakthrough. The Grameen difference here is the use of digital technology and data to understand rural households in detail, and then offering them an entire ecosystem of agencies and actors that surround them, and then empowering tools that can enable them meet and elevate their everyday realities. Clearly, globally, our programming is structured around digital innovations in agriculture, digital farming, digital financial services, leveraging the use of mobile money platforms, and also how we enable community agents with the digital tools that they need in order to connect with community folks. So ultimately, our aim or objective is how we leverage digital tools and data to fight poverty. So that is what Grameen Foundation does globally. And in terms of our track record globally and by success by the numbers, Grameen set out in 2016 to set out a goal for itself to empower 25 million people globally by 2025. So far, of the 30,000 community agents that have been deployed in all of our programs globally, they have been able to directly impact close to 13 million individuals since 2016. And indirectly, about 55 million household members have also benefited from our programming globally. For the purpose of this presentation, I'll narrow down on our digital innovation in agricultural work in Ghana. Our approach is how to leverage data to drive decision-making at the household level and at the agribusiness level, the agribusiness actors who engage the small-scale farmers to produce and increase their productivity and resilience. And we do this by demonstrating how technology and human network make it possible to serve smallholder farmers. Clearly, our interest is in how we are able to use technology to tighten the crop supply chain, such that we can amplify the voice of the farmer and again, ensure that the farmer is meaningfully engaging with other actors within the crop value chain, like agro input dealers, financial service providers, equipment, manufacturers and suppliers, and even researchers on extension services and information. So again, for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to use one of our specific program in Ghana called FarmGrow to illustrate how Grameen Foundation works with local private partners to leverage technology tools and data to drive decision-making and to support farmers to increase their productivity and resilience. So I'll play a 3-minute video at this point, and after that, I'll delve into that. And then please let me know if you are able to see the video and then the sound.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
My interest in agriculture started growing when I was in the junior high school. I was intrigued on so many things happening naturally around me that most people didn't seem to appreciate, or most people didn't seem to see. It's just the passion I have for it. My name is Selassie Gidiglo. I'm an agronomist, and I'm responsible for fostering good relationship with the farmers and helping them implement good agronomic practices. On a typical day, I'm visiting a number of farmers to see the decision that entire households are making concerning their development plans, and also give them technical advice as to how to implement whatever recommendations they've been given. So the plan is a multi-year development plan that combines both agronomic and socioeconomic factors and presents farmers with recommendations and best management practices to improve and increase their productivity. What makes the development plan unique is the combination of the various factors. For example, we can look at the individual approach where we take the farmers one-on-one, where individual farmers are engaged and their needs assessed and they are better understood, and we all agree on a realistic time frame and timeline in order for us to improve and increase the productivity.
Music bed.
The digital nature makes it outstanding in the sense that we are able to collect data much easier and faster in the field, and we are also able to do assessment more accurately. On top of that, this plan also looks at the entire household socioeconomic status. So it doesn't only look at the individual farmer. We look at the entire household and see their standing and know where to place them in the development plan for them to be able to also achieve the goal together. So it looks at the total development of the farmer, and that's what makes it so special.
Okay. So back to my presentation. So I'll be introducing what the FarmGrow tool is. So just as you saw from the video, this is a tool that is used by last mile community agents to engage individual farming communities on a one-on-one basis, such that the families have a customized specific farm development plan that the field agent is supporting the farming household to commit to and also to follow within the cropping cycle so that they can increase their productivity. By the nature of this particular program called FarmGrow, it is important that the local private sector partners that we work with are able to segment farmers such that it is only farmers who are willing and able to increase their productivity that are onboarded, recruited into the program, because it is a farm investment tool that requires the farmer to actually invest financially and in a form of labor services into his farm in order to increase productivity. So it is not just a plan, but it is a plan for the farmer to actually commit resources to make sure that that plan, that specific farm plan, digital farm plan is being followed through. So we developed this 10 questions that community agents would typically ask farmers, and then depending on their response that they give, it clusters the farmers and gives an indication whether these farmers should be onboarded into the farm growth program or not, because there is no point in enrolling a farmer into this program only for the farmer not to commit financial resources into following the promoted good agricultural practices that are given or recommended to the farming household. So this is a farmer segmentation tool that helps the community agents to actually cluster the farmers. And there are two main sections of the application. There is the diagnostics section of the application and then the monitoring section of the application. And in the application, the mobile application works offline. And this typically is used by community agents that are in rural Ghana. And therefore, they don't require any access to the internet to be able to use the tool. You can use it to profile farmers, conduct your assessment. And then when they have access to internet, then they are able to sync the data such that it's collected at the back end or the cloud-based services that we use. It's also important to mention that this application is not only used in Ghana, it has previously been used in Indonesia and then also currently being used in Cote d'Ivoire. So there is the English, French version, the Bari version, and currently we're looking to translate into Spanish for use in Latin America. So as you can see from the picture, you have a field agent who uses the application to engage the smallholder farmer. The first section of the diagnostics model is the use of the tool by the field agent to profile not just the farmer, but the entire family members of that particular farmer. So this approach considers the total farming household in reality. So the first data that is collected is the actual farmer profile. And after that, the family members. So every member of that farming family is also profiled. The socio-economic profile is also collected, the farming economic profile, and then the productive profile of that particular farming household. So just to mention that for the farmer's profile, basically the house location, the phone number, and it is also GPS stamped such that in the field, then we are able to locate the GPS coordinate of the household, where the house is located and where the farms are located. So in a way, we are able to get some certainty on where the farmer is located. So basically, the farmer profile will collect basic information about the farmer, including household address, contact information, whether he belongs to the farmer association. When we go to the family members profile, all other family members are also profiled. So here we want to understand what the participation of each of the household, the farming household expense decisions are, whether they contribute to the expenses or the revenue for the household, and specifically what role each member plays when it comes to the farming activities of the farming household. It's all captured. Then the socioeconomic profile. Again, as I said, this is an investment decision-making tool for the farmer. And therefore, it is important to understand what the socioeconomic profile of the farming household is. So here we want to understand whether the farming family have taken a loan, they have given a loan out, how much they need to pay back in a form of loan, basically understanding the cash flow of the farming household, the revenue that comes in and expenditure that goes out. And when you come to the farming economic profile here, we want to understand the revenue or money that the farming household made from selling cocoa, which is a cash crop, and not just cocoa, but other crops that the farming household also cultivates. How much they spent on farm inputs, and whether they have additional crops that they also cultivate. We want to understand how much income they also earn from that. When all of this profiling information is collected in the farming household, then the entire farms are then plotted. Depending on the size and characteristics of the farm, it could be plotted into 2 plots, 3 or 4, depending on the characteristics of the farm. And then the field agent conducts what we call farm assessment. So he uses the tool, physically goes to the farms with the farmers and conducts an assessment to understand the status of the farms. So these are the 14 criteria that the field agent will score the farm, whether the farm is doing well or not. And most of these mechanisms that are used to judge the status of the farm is through observation. So that's why we call it adoption observation. The field agent is observing to see if the farmers are adopting in the past good agricultural practices that they may be exposed to. And there are 14 criteria ranging from planting materials, tree age of the crop, pest and disease, weeding, whether weeding is done on the crop, whether fertilizer is applied and all that. And it is further subsumed under 4, farm condition, good agricultural practices, and soil conditions. So when all of the data is collected, this is how the agribusinesses, the local private sector partners that we work with, this is how they see the data on all the farmers that have had adoption observations conducted on. So they are able to see that, okay, this percentage of the farmers that we source our cocoa beans are not doing so well when it comes to fertilizer formulation application. Pruning is also bad, tree age is bad. It looks like good harvesting, and there are no diseases on the crop. So basically, it is leveraging the aggregated data to inform their decision making. And then based on the adoption of the results of the adoption observation as the farm assessment that is carried out, it combines with some smart logic, an algorithm that is built in the application to then generate specific financial investment, or what we call the profit and loss analysis for the farmer, consider whether or not he wants to continue with the bigger farm plan. So this is how it shows. So clearly you realize that for plot 1 for this farmer, the recommendation for that plot is for the farmer to do maintenance on the farm, that is, observe good agricultural practices. And then the farmer is able to know what the plot level recommendation is to increase productivity, how much investment they need to make, and what will be the resultant profit and loss to the farmer following the plan. So for plot 1, at the last row, you see profit or loss. So it's green when it's showing a profit and red when it's showing a loss. And again, this is a 7-year plan. So it's a multi-year plan. So it's not looking at a short-term benefits that may accrue to the farmer, but helping the farmer to project into the future to see how he can double or even triple his productivity moving into year 6, year 7. So that is this is what is in the actually the plan. Then after the plan has been generated and then recommendations have been given for each plot, then it breaks down the monthly list of activity that the farmer should be following in order to work towards that roadmap in terms of recommendation that was made. So for this particular farmer, plot 1 had to do with a recommendation around observing good agricultural practices. So it further breaks down month by month and year by year. So if you take year 1, each month the farmer knows exactly the specific farm, the specific good agricultural practices that he should be observing. So for March, it's around herbiciding, weeding, for June, sanitation, harvesting. So this is very specific. And then what is unique here is that on these 2 rows that you see here, it gives the estimated costs to that farmer actually adopting the practice that is being recommended every month. So the farmer can look at the cost and make a decision whether to delay a particular intervention and do it at another time because it is capital intensive, or is able to work around how he can mobilize financing in order to act on the promoted practice. And we know that most of these farmers that work here are in rural Ghana, they can't read and write. So we went a step further to see how we can use visuals to represent these monthly lists of activities for the farmer. So clearly a farmer can look at this printout that is done on paper, that is extracted from the digital plan, and know that, okay, in May, we know for Ghana from May to June, it's a rainy season. And at that time, I'm expected to apply fertilizer. So these visuals, and they are trained in all of these, so they can look at these visuals and interpret them and know what is expected of them to do every month and be able to work towards the specific plan. After the farmers have agreed to the plan, then the field agents, the community agents, arrange to then visit the farmers and then coach them, mentor them to be able to properly and correctly put into practice the specific recommendations for their farm. So sometimes they teach them how to prune, how to weed, how to harvest. So this is practical one-on-one coaching based on a digital plan for a farming household. And as you can see, sometimes it does not involve only the farmer, but even the partners or the spouses of the farmer, because this is considering the totality of the farming household's capability to be able to invest in their farms. When the coaching has been done, the field agent then agrees with the farmer that, okay, in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year, I would be coming back to monitor and see whether the farm plan that you agreed to, you are following it. So this is basically an agreement between the field agent and the farmer. Now, for me, this is one of the best screenshots of the application. Why? Because side by side, the farmer is able to know what his or her score was when the adoption observation, the farm assessment was done, and then compare it to the farm assessment that was done at the monitoring stage, because the same 14 indicators are assessed to see if the farmer is doing well in each of these 14 criteria, is actually getting worse or performance is remaining the same. So clearly for this farmer, you realize that for plant material, it was medium during the diagnostics phase, and at the monitoring phase, it is still medium. For weeding, it was good during the diagnostics, but has moved to bad at the point of monitoring. And then also fertilizer formulation application is still bad even during the monitoring. What this is telling us is that this approach is monitoring farmers' progress on each of these criteria so that the field agents and the agribusiness that we work with can take remedial actions to provide targeted customized support services to their farmers based on this result. And there's another layer of information that comes through. So the reason for the farmer's failure in each of these 14 during the monitoring is also captured. Was it because the farmer was not competent in that particular area? The farmer didn't have funds, the farmer didn't have time, the farmer was sick, the weather conditions couldn't permit the farmer to. So all of these data points on why the farmer couldn't actually do well, comparing the score in the diagnostics to the monitoring, are captured, providing another layer of data for the agribusinesses to engage the farmers to help them improve their productivity. Now, when you look down here, you realize that for this farmer, he has 3 plots, plot 1, 2, and 3. And each of the plots are assessed individually because they have different characteristics. So it could be that a farmer for plot 1 may have passed because clearly the results of the monitoring shows, and then plot 2 could fail, and plot 3 could be a non-critical fail. We say it's non-critical because maybe giving the farmer a week or 2, the farmer would be able to quickly turn around the fortunes of the farm, because probably it could be just weeding or harvesting that needs to be done on that farm to quickly turn around the fortunes of the farm. And it's a fail because probably the farmer's recommendation was to rehabilitate or to replant because the trees are too old, but the farmer has not done that. In that way, that is capital intensive, requires some amount of work for the farmer to be able to turn, so it's a complete fail. Then the last slides that I'm showing are how the data that comes through for the agribusinesses, the local private partners who source the cocoa beans that is used to make, chocolates and other things, how they are able to see the aggregated data of all the farmers that they provide services to and buy their beans, whether or not at the farmer level they are doing well or are not doing well. So this is how the data shows on dashboards for these agribusinesses. So each of the 14 criteria that I did mention are provided visually, and just by a glance, you are able to tell whether, even by this farm grow approach, you are making progress with your farmers or not, and whether your investments is even worthy to continue with. So you realize that for harvesting at the diagnostics here, it is showing that about 86% of farmers that have had farm assessment done for them at the diagnostics actually did well. It's a good. Just 13% was bad. If you compare that to the monitoring data, that is at the time of monitoring, farmers that have had assessment done for them, you realize that the good has actually moved from 86% to 98%, meaning that you are doing something good. The coaching and mentoring is working when it comes to harvesting. The same way, when you take pruning, you realize that about 87% is bad and has actually increased at the point of monitoring to 95%, meaning that obviously there's something not going right, and therefore remedial actions should quickly be put in place. So it means that farmers' performance at this level is actually getting bad. The same for pest and disease. You realize that it was 42%, but has increased to 44%, which is quite okay. And when you take weeding, it was 68% good, but has moved to 93% good, which is quite good. The same way for all the 14. Shade management, it was 66% bad, and it has reduced to 63% bad. So at least we have gained some 3%. And as you can see from the data, the reason for failure for each of these indicators is also provided. So for most of the farmers that they didn't do shade management, about 247 of them said it was because they didn't have the funds, the resources. 8% said, they didn't have time. And I want to end by this screenshot that I took from a WhatsApp platform that has all our private sector partners and the community agents using the tool on this particular platform. The whole idea is to share knowledge and encourage peer-to-peer learning as they use the tool with farmers. And it was instructive. One of the posts that one of the private sector local partners put on the platform. And for us, this is the whole idea behind FarmGrow. Now, this is what he puts there. He says that things to take note of. He's communicating to his community agents in the field. Things to take note of. More of our farmers are scoring bad in fertilizer formulation application, as well as pruning. In addition, shade management is pretty bad. Kindly use this in your planning. So this is the point, the whole unique approach of FarmGrow, such that we are not collecting data for collecting sake, but that data can be used by agribusiness and at the farmer level to support farmers with the farm management services and coaching and mentoring services that they need in order to, turn over the fortunes of their farms, increase their productivity. So the whole idea here, again, is not to look at overall project impacts and outcomes, like how donor projects are normally monitored. But the FarmGrow process is a very slow, steady, multi-year process that monitors step by step, the progress that each farming household is making on their farms. And if there are challenges, putting in place measures to support them to turn over the fortunes of their farms. So this ends my presentation. Thank you so much for the audience, and I'm looking forward to the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Alfred. And I think the FarmGrow is a really unique tool for agriculture in developing countries. Now we turn to Dr. Aviai Ilan from Israel. Could you start your presentation?
Okay. Okay, I can start. Okay. So the topic here is rural development adapted to smallholder farmers. I'm going to start with a problem in international development and talking a little bit about the development organizations from my perspective, from what I've seen, how to select the intervention goal where development organization where it should intervene, and the aspects to be addressed, and then how the development program is arranged or organized, how it is operated, and then the impact of the program and the solutions that are adapted to the local situation. And then your question and my answer. And I added the additional photos that demonstrate the program activity. The program that I'm going to talk about is the programs of USAID, the Mashav, and the Ministry of Agriculture of Ethiopia that actually started in 2006 and go all the way until last year, with different activities along the line and quite different names of the project along the time, but in general it was the same. So let's start with problems of international development. Sometimes a development organization lacks the knowledge in the professional area where the organization focus. Sometimes volunteers are used instead of professionals, or volunteers only without professionals. Sometimes the problem is with selection of the targets for development. Sometimes they are selected according to the development organization convenience rather than the real problem that should be addressed. And sometimes the different players in the development world are not collaborating. Every organization wants to invent the wheel. And as you know, the wheel was invented some 1,000 years back. So everyone wants to reinvent the wheel and don't care what other organizations are currently doing or have been doing in the past. Sometimes the problem is ignoring the beneficiaries, the people in the developing country, the target country or the target community. And the term participatory development, it is like sustainable development. It is a nice buzzword that everyone knows that it should be in a paper, but it is not necessarily addressed. Sometimes the development is done on a narrow front. You take one component and develop it, but it won't work unless all the development chain is addressed. For example, if you, in agriculture, if you develop very nice yields, but on the same time, you didn't develop the market, then most of the yield will be thrown away and the beneficiaries didn't get any benefit from the improvement of the yields, for example. Then there comes the problem of sustainability. And again, this is mostly a buzzword. And what is actually happening is mostly different. What you see as a result of different international program is often what is called white elephant, a birdsome possession. You know, you see some fancy greenhouse that after the phase out of a project is no longer in action. You see a very nice brand new tractor that is not used. Sometimes one wheel is missing and that's stopped everything. So the essence of sustainability is to leave something economically viable and economically and socially viable after the project phase out. Otherwise, it is not sustainable. Okay, here I'll start to look on each of the components and see, kind of criticize the project where I was involved, if they stand in the criteria or not. So with regard to competence of the development organization to perform the development mission, if I'm looking on the USAID, this is one of the largest development organizations. The staff is trained on international development, but they are acting mostly via subcontractors. In a way, Mashav were subcontractors of the USAID, and that's, you know, you are, eventually they are as good as their subcontractors are, and sometimes their subcontractors are not so good. With regard to Mashav, Mashav is a department of Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the senior staff does not specialize in global development. They are actually ambassadors that came for some years to that department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And so they are not very well trained for their mission. On the other hand, the experts that Mashav select to the different missions are often experienced and coming from the target area. The Ministry of Agriculture of Ethiopia, they provided experienced staff and they helped with access to the project site. So that was, I think, very good. They showed the readiness, they were ready to implement new technologies. One problem that they have is excess of bureaucracy, and I will show you later how we suffered from that one. Okay, the next question is how to select the intervention area. And for that purpose, the development organization must find the Archimedean point. You know, Archimedes say that if he'll find the right point, he can lift up the world, the globe. So the idea is where you should intervene to achieve a maximum effect and maximum benefit to the developing country. And when we take Ethiopia as an example, most of the population is in agriculture. Most of the population is in the agricultural sector, and smallholders are the majority of Ethiopia's farmers. So the intervention should be done in the smallholders sector, and the problem of the smallholders is monoculture. Monoculture of field crops. It can be barley, teff, corn, but many of the smallholders are growing one crop, and that makes them very vulnerable in case of drought or a flood or any other problem. So that's where the intervention should come. And the solution was to add horticultural crops, so that any smallholder, in addition to its field crop, can have fruits and vegetables, and that will provide additional food and increase the income and reduce the vulnerability. On what aspects the intervention should come? So we already know that we wanted to intervene on horticulture, but then, as I mentioned before, if we are just taking one chain of the value chain and intervene on that chain, we may not achieve the target. So obviously there will be the weakest chain where we want to intervene, but still we need to take care that other chains will be functioning. So the weakest link in the horticultural value chain was identified as planting material. Seeds, plants, that's the problem. The main problem was the main problem in Ethiopia horticulture, and solving that problem will provide quality plants, and quality plants allow many good things, higher yields, export options, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so that was plant material were done, where this problem was solved by fruit and vegetable centers of excellence that included nurseries, a demonstration plot, capacity building, etc. Cultivation method, in every center there was a group of extension staff that worked with the nearby smallholders. And through collaboration with other development organizations, remember that not everybody should invent the wheel, we addressed some other problems like processing and marketing. This is the organization of the USAID Mashav, the Ministry of Agriculture of Ethiopia program. There are a stakeholders meeting and steering committee of the program. And then stakeholders decide the development target, and the steering committee overview the program targets application. There is a coordination office with a coordinator from Ethiopia, US, and Israel. And then there are technical committees for plant tissue culture, nurseries, and extensions, the three main activities of the program. And then come the different sites, 5 nurseries and demonstration plots, 6 plant tissue culture laboratories, extension in 4 regions, capacity building and information providing activities, and collaboration with other programs, etc. Okay, here we can see the different sites on Ethiopia map, and the centers that included the nurseries, and in some of them capacity building and demonstration plot are shown in these yellow pins, and the circles are the plant tissue culture laboratories. Okay, so just a second. Okay, so nurseries, in every center of excellence, there were fruit and vegetable nurseries, demonstration plot. Here you can see example of demonstration plot showing fruits, avocado fruits with some peas. So showing a way for intercropping in young fruit tree plots. The fruit tree and vegetable nurseries provided plants in affordable price that is still profitable for the nursery, so it covers the nursery cost and allows the nursery to stay alive and to continue producing. Okay, here we can see some examples. This is avocado nursery. This is mini nursery for vegetables. We see onions on the top and tomatoes in the bottom. This structure, by the way, was structure that was invented by me and another expert in the program. This is the tissue culture laboratory. This lady is transferring potato plants. And here we see the potato in the later stage for the production of mini tubers. Later, if you have time, we'll talk a little more about this technique. Okay. About the extension, I admit, and in view of what Alfred told us, it is the biggest headache, how to conduct an effective extension. And the problem in Ethiopia, there is a very large extension department, but they rarely reach to the farmer sites because they lack the budget to get to travel to the farmer sites, and they are not paid enough. And what they are trying to do, the extension staff, is to run away from extension on the ground to hire rank in the Ministry of Agriculture or other organizations. So the solution is to provide travel, to provide incentives, but still it is obvious that you cannot reach every farmer with the extension staff. And therefore, one more thing, the source of these additional payments are the nurseries and produce of the demonstration plots, okay? You cannot say that you are going to pay more to the extension staff if you are not saying how. So that will be the way to pay them more, to allow them to reach the farmers and to keep them for longer time in the rural areas. Then, obviously, they cannot visit and they shouldn't visit all the farmers. They are visiting model farmers, okay? About 1% of all the farmers, the better farmers that they are supposed to, through their economical and social ties, to bring the messages to other farmers. So this is how it works. This is the model farmer extension, how it works. There is a team manager, and under the team manager, there are 5 officers, and every officer visit 50 model farmers in a month. So altogether, it is 250 model farmers, and this 250 model farmer representing a population of 25,000 farmers, which is more or less the population of the number of farmers in one regional office or one county, if you will. Okay, with regard to capacity building, it was provided to all the stakeholders of the program, to model farmers, to extension staff, to nursery manager and leaders, to Ministry of Agriculture officials and staff. It included fruit and vegetable production, nursery propagation, micro-propagation, fertigation, plant protection, post-harvest extension, etc. It was conducted in regional centers of the project that, by the way, continue to work after the project phase out, and the trainees were paid for travel and per diem. And that's very significant to make it happen. The training mode was in the morning. We provided the theory, the lectures, and in the afternoon, there was practical training. Like you see these students sowing vegetable seeds in the lower photo. That's what we did in the afternoon. In terms of monitoring, there was monthly site report, a quarter report by the coordinators to the steering committee members, weekly communicate to all the sites and the stakeholders in the project. There was a website of the program that was timely updated, and there was source book, protocols for nursery, resources of nursery and plant tissue culture materials, and disposables. And then a package of practices, cultivation methods for the main fruit and vegetable crops. That's all the project distributed. Okay, about the sustainability, nurseries produced hundreds of thousands of subtropical fruit plants per year. The micropropagation laboratories. Okay, so this hundreds of thousands of fruit tree plants were actually paid by the buyers, and that allow the nurseries to continue to produce them on large scale. And this has actually made a big change in Ethiopia. We wanted to do the same thing with the micropropagation laboratories. It was government laboratory, research laboratories that we wanted to scale up, but they didn't allow us to sell plants. And that's killed the whole idea. With regarding to capacity building, we trained some hundreds or maybe even thousands of local trainers. And with that, that thing was sustainable because this training can continue. Okay, what was the effect on the local farmers? It added this part of horticultural crops, fruit and vegetables to Ethiopian smallholders, and that what reduced the problem of monoculture and the vulnerability of monoculture, and the quality plants increase yield and allow export of tissue culture plants. Let's see some export of avocado from this year, photos I got from this year. This is the fruit. It is collected in the field. It is taken into container, and the containers are taken by a train to Djibouti port. And this is the fruits that were presented in Italy in an international show. Okay, this is new varieties of tomatoes that were brought in collaboration with another organization by the program. We still have time. Sonia, I need another 2 minutes. 2 minutes, okay? So one of the problems with development organization is that you provide solutions that are not adapted to the local abilities, either financial or materials availability, etc., etc. And you need to rely on locally available material as much as possible. And here are some examples. Okay, in the left, we see a mini nursery that was built from local material. It is much better than traditional soil nurseries, and it can produce some thousands of plants, and that allow smallholders to produce their plants in a very effective way. On the right side, we see a nursery built, fruit tree nursery built from eucalyptus stick and dry grass on the top. Simple material, very cheap and very effective. Here we can see how the fertilizer are produced. This is a locally produce compost. You can use some leaves, like the leaves of moringa, as a source of fertilizers for the plants. So in places where you cannot get all the fertilizer, that may be the solution. Another thing, one of the problems that Alfred mentioned is that some farmers are not keeping the protocols of pest and disease control. And one way to control it is biological control. If you are importing your biological predators or biological control for certain pests, you can solve the problem and don't need to use pesticide, insecticide, etc. So here, this is one of the solutions that we try to apply. These are kind of, oops, I missed the word. This is kind of little bees that attacked the woolly white fly in citrus. This is simple solution for wrapping material for banana bunches, or solving the problem of excess fruit in a very short season, like some of the fruits in Ethiopia, by a simple drying above the ground. This is another thing that we brought to higher elevations. We found that olive can be grown in that high elevation, and that's a very good crop because you can keep the oil for a long time, and it's or you can make you can pickle the olives, and you can keep it for a long time. Okay, this is the lecture, and the next things are the Q&A.
Thank you for your presentation, Dr. Ilan. We really enjoyed. And now we will have a quick, brief Q&A session. So we already delivered you some questions that we had. And let's start with Alfred's presentation. So our first question was, I think that was actually my question. Field coach's role is very vital in this project. And how do you recruit and train those field coaches, I mean agents? Could you answer the question, Mr. Alfred?
Yeah, thank you. Abia, can I share my screen? I have one slide to explain how we do this. If you can stop sharing, and then I can. Yeah, thank you. Good. So basically, the farm grow approach is quite labor intensive because though this is a digital tool innovation, it is used by last mile agents, and Grameen Foundation as an international non-profit work with donor funds. And because of this, to ensure sustainability of our project, we always work with local private sector partners and social entrepreneurs in country to ensure that they are recruiting, these private sector partners are the ones recruiting the field agents as part of their human resource and field force. And then Grameen, as a technical service provider, trains them on the use of the digital tool and equip them so that they are able to do their work. So my answer here is that looking at this process that I described, this slide actually summarizes the entire process involved in the farm grow approach. One, the field agents are sensitizing and checking whether farmers are interested and segmented them before they are onboarded into the program. The field agents again go back to these farming households, interviews the farmers, and their families and profiles them. Then step 3 of the diagnosis phase is when they physically go to the farms and do the farm assessments and scores them. And then when that is done, they then discuss the farm plan, which has the profit and loss statement with the farmers, and seek their agreement to the plan. When that happens and they agree, then it kicks in the initial and ongoing coaching and mentoring. Then it moves into the monitoring phase, where the field agents again have to go back to these farmers to do the monitoring using the same adoption observation criteria. So clearly, as you can see from the farmer journey with FarmGrow, the field agents are with them all the way through till they make sure that farmers are able to increase their productivity. The point here is that the field agents are not Grameen's recruited agents, but rather agents that are recruited by private traders, private cocoa traders, private sector partners who actually pay and remunerate the services of this field agent. So the whole approach here is to make sure that this approach, the FarmGrow approach, actually fits into the existing service delivery models of our private sector partners. Thank you.
Thank you for answering. And one of the other questions was, you said like the FarmGrow is a very slow motion, but still meaningful and really for the farmers. But we want to know like how many farmers has been benefited so far from this program, and which region of the Kenya, like that information.
Okay, thank you. So again, I agree, this is a labor-intensive, slow process. It's very different from other projects that is rushing to come up with, impact or outcomes. So far, we started in 2018. So far, over 10,000 small-scale cocoa farmers have been onboarded by about 4 private cocoa traders that we work with in Ghana. And in Cote d'Ivoire, we also have some of our private sector partners implementing this project with just about 1,000 for Cote d'Ivoire, about 10,000, over 10,000 for Ghana. And Indonesia, that first uses to also have close to about 5,000 farmers that have been onboarded for this. And it is important to mention that about 2,000 women small-scale cocoa farmers are included in this project. And therefore, the project is also looking at the gender aspects and how inclusively we can have women also play meaningful parts of the FarmGrow process. And this is actually a project being implemented in West Africa. So Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and also previously used in Indonesia. And it is in the cocoa growing areas. So it's not every part of the country that has soils that supports the growth of cocoa. So these are typically in the 5 growing cocoa regions of Ghana.
Thank you for the information. And the next question from our fellow researcher, Sok, and now he could not participate due to his schedule, but he want to know when talking about digital farms to local farmers, like, does everyone really agree? Like some people are really, they want to stick to their traditional farm operation styles. And do you have any strategies how to persuade them?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So again, from my presentation, I did mention that FarmGrow is not for every farmer. Why? Because this is an investment decision-making process and tool for the farmer, and requires the farmer to commit financial resources and sometimes even labor services to implement the good agricultural practices that are promoted through the use of the tool. So that is why a farmer segmentation is done right from the onset. And depending on farmers' response to those 10 questions, it gives an indication to our local private sector partners whether or not to even proceed and onboard farmers for FarmGrow. We do appreciate that there are a group of farmers who for them are just okay with where they are when it comes to productivity and the income that they get from their farms. But FarmGrow is a different one. This is actually working with farmers that have the motivation and incentive to invest in their farms. And the way by which we also bring about the entire community is by using Grameen's human-centered design approach and what we call the solution innovation process. So before an intervention is rolled out and scaled, we do a lot of community sensitization and community entry techniques to ensure that key stakeholders within the community, we are able to get their buy-in and are able, and we believe that this is again a behavior change program, a program that requires farmers and their families to change their mindset, to change their behavior, and therefore hinges around social psychology and aspects of changing behavior. So we do a lot of community sensitization to ensure that these farmers, one, make an input into the prototypes that are developed. There's an iteration process to make sure that their voices and opinions and perceptions are reflected in the kind of digital innovations that we develop. And again, FarmGrow is designed to fit into the rural ICT infrastructure reality. So one, it works offline, it's used by last mile food agents. And again, the thinking here is to look beyond the project. So when you begin a project, you have the end in mind to ensure sustainability. So the focus here is not just increasing farmers' productivity, but bringing the community to understand the flexibility that requires the program approach to explore other opportunities. For example, currently we are using APIs that we are able to operate data interoperability from FarmGrow with other third-party systems. The whole idea is to optimize the use of data for the farmers. So agro input dealers can take the data, for instance, and do demand forecasting and know the kind of agro inputs that farmers will require, or even financial service providers, very important in a mix. They are able to look at the data on the farmers and inform their credit decision-making to decide for this group of farmers, based on our credit scoring algorithm, we can provide them credits or finance, for instance.
Thank you. Dr. Avay-Ilan and Mr. Alfred, could we extend the Q&A session 10 minutes more?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay, so our fellow researchers have additional questions actually. So Ms. Kaun Kim, could you share your question for the Mr. Alfred's presentation?
You want me to share my questions? The
We will
questions
finish.
that I received?
Yes, we will finish up Alfred's presentation first, and then we will turn to you.
Okay,
Just.
okay.
Ms. Kaun?
Okay. Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, my question is, in order to operate a business continuously, income is required. How does FarmGrow coaching and monitoring program for smallholders secure income and operate sustainably?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So when I was presenting, I did mention that the primary crop that these farming households cultivate is cocoa. Cocoa is a cash crop. It has ready markets. The big players that produce chocolates and related, ingredients are ready to offtake and buy this cocoa. So in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, even in West Africa sub-region, there's always ready markets by government for cocoa that is produced. So revenue is assured. Once you are able to increase your productivity, the market is there to absorb it. But another innovative approach that we have used to secure farmers' income and ensure sustainability for them is to go a step ahead to support farmers to diversify their crops that they cultivate. So again, we are putting in place coaching mechanisms to ensure that farmers are not only cultivating cocoa, but are also cultivating other food crops that can supplement their incomes, and even in some instances support farmers in other income generating activities. So crop diversification and agroforestry are key areas that FarmGrow also pays attention to beyond just cocoa production.
Thank you for your answer. And now we go to Aviai Ilan. And could you share your screen? So can we go to the third question first, the distribution and processing question? Yes, actually
Okay.
that was the question from Jonghwa, researcher here. So she will explain first why she had curiosity about that.
Hello, my name is Jonghwa Lee. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Actually, when I studied in rural development, I heard that distribution and processing are most important part. Most important issue in rural development. And yes, your presentation, I felt that focus on the quantity improvement, I think, crop quantity improvement. So I wondered how to treat the next step, how to connect a next value chain. So I want to ask it. Thank you.
Okay. If I correctly understand, is that the question was about the sales strategies and how to sell in a competitive price, and basically the products that of the project were mostly plants. So on one hand, we didn't want to sell in very high prices because that will disturb smallholders. On the other hand, we didn't want to sell too low because the nurseries must remain profitable. That's their sustainability. They should be economically viable. And that's how they will continue, and they are continuing after the end, after the phasing out of the project. So eventually, we selected low price, but still profitable to the nursery. And about other marketing of the produce, of the agricultural produce, we try to collaborate with other organization, or to connect the project farmers to other organizations who dealt with that thing. I hope I answered what you wanted to ask.
Researcher Jonghwa, was the answer that you wanted? Do you have additional questions?
Yes, actually, yeah. Next, after I will question again. I will ask it again.
Okay. Okay. So the next question is the nursery system question. Could you go that to slide, Doctor? The very last question. Yes. Actually, the question was from Grace Kim, and I will read instead of her. It seems that nursery system is important to the production of fruits and vegetables. So what specific education is being done for this?
So in the program, we did a lot of capacity building, and the idea with capacity building was to train nurseries all over the country, not only the nurseries participated in the program, and also to train trainers for future training. And we established classes in two sites, so that the training have the infrastructure to continue. And also there are additional sites of the bureaus of agriculture that can be used for this purpose. The main thing is training the trainers, and that's we done on a very large scale. I believe we trained 100 trainers on vegetables, on fruit trees and fruit tree nurseries, and on micro-propagation, on the propagation by tissue culture. Okay?
Okay.
If we have a little bit of time, I
Mhm.
can show a few more photos of the different propagation activities, because you said you wrote something about getting more on the professional background of that.
Okay, yes, please. Please show us the photos.
Okay. So here we see the sowing of vegetable seeds. First of all, in our capacity building, they build these little tables. Actually, it's not only a table, it's like a box on leg that they built. And with cell trays, they are sowing the seeds in a soil that they mixed and put in the cell trays, and they are putting the seeds, covering with soil, wetting it with a sprayer, and then let it grow. So here, after some scaling up, here there was 5 units of mini nursery that could provide 27,000 plants in every cycle. Cycle is like 6 weeks. These are some of the products. We see pepper, we see onion. Now with regard to micropropagation, the propagation by tissue culture, I'm just explaining very shortly what is plant tissue culture. You take a very small piece, like the shoot tip of this offshoot that came from next to a good yielding plant of banana in that example. And this little shoot tip, after disinfection with things like bleach, you know, this sodium hypochlorite that everybody is using to clean the toilets, you put it in artificial medium that provides the plant all the minerals, vitamins, hormones, and sugar to replace photosynthesis, and it is grown under fluorescent or LED lamps and multiplied very fast because of the very good condition and the plant hormones, and create, we seen from this one shoot tip, in a few months, you can create 1,000 little plants that will later produce roots, and then acclimatized, adapted to greenhouse condition, and then brought to little pots, and grow to about 30 centimeter, so that they can go back to the field. So we see in a few months, we make from just one shoot tip, one apical bud, 1,000 plants. So it's very, very fast propagation. Here we see the process in one of the project labs in Bahir Dar, Ethiopia. Here we see these ladies transferring the tissue culture plant, the potato plants in tissue culture. And here, this lady is the manager of the site. And after acclimatizing the plant, they are growing mini tubers of up to 2 centimeters. The whole process is a process to produce clean potato seeds. So the process starts with a very little, the apical meristem of the plant, a very, very small piece of the plant. Then from this, we grow a little plant in test tube. It takes to virus test. Then it is propagated in the lab, acclimatized, produce tubers in mini tubers in this lab, and then continue to multiply under insect-proof condition, and eventually 1 or 2 more multiplications on high elevations where those insects that suck the sap of the plant and transmit viruses are not present. So eventually you get potato tubers or potato seeds that are clean from viruses in a very low price. This is acclimatization of pineapple plants in another site of the program in Jima. So you see that first we acclimatized under cheesecloth, very cheap facility, if you will, and then the cheesecloths that maintain high humidity and low light intensity. After 2 weeks, it is removed, and the plants continue to develop in cell trays until they are ready to the next stage, which is potting. So here we see potting of bananas in Bahir Dar. You see this poly bags, okay, polyethylene bags. And these are the mother plantation of the nurseries. The mother plantation provide seeds and scions, little branches. And why we need them? Okay, first of all, the seed are germinating in seed beds. And then these little branches, the scions, are grafted on the plants that developed from the seeds, okay? So this is, it is actually connecting 2 different plants. That's what 2 different plants from the same species, but not the same variety. We are connecting them together so that the seed, the seedling, the rootstock that developed from the seed will provide the qualities of adaptation to soil, to salinity, to things like that. And the scion, the variety, will provide the variety characteristics like fruit taste and yield, etc. So here we see some grafting done by trainees in the program. And this is the grafted plants watched by the nursery manager from two sites.
Sorry
This
for
is-
interruption, Doctor. I think time's up. It's almost
Okay, this is the last.
okay. Mhm.
This is showing the big plants and how they are taken to the plantations. And here it is in the plantations. And this is when the fruit is packed to go to the export. And that's the end. Okay.
Okay, so Mr. Alfred and Dr. Avihai, thank you so much for joining the lecture today. I think your presentation and the information that you shared was very valuable to us, and we really got the good opportunity to learn about the sustainable agriculture. So we very look forward to seeing you once again, maybe more webinars or in Korea. So thank you very much again.
Okay, thank you.
Right, thank you.
Do you have closing words? Do you want to say something? No? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so just to sum up, I think that the use of digital tools and innovation in agriculture is fine, but it needs to move beyond just the use of the tools by farmers or last mile agents. To look at some of the ethical standards for engaging farmers, like what I described, the voice standards, VIN for valuing the farmers that we are working with, or opportunity for farmers to speak and be heard, such that you make the whole process participatory, and then I providing them the relevant and timely information. C, the convenience and consistency with how the tools are used. And then lastly, the E is how engaging and entertaining and interactive the use of the tools are used by farmers and field agents. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share.
And
I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk about this project. Right after I finish my stay in the project, I prepared. I did some writing and try to give this message so that when new agriculture projects start, they will not start from zero and reinvent the wheel. At least they can use the wheel that we already invented. So I hope that's what I love to do, and I thank you for the opportunity to do it.
thank you all the researchers here. And let's finish up the lecture. So the two speakers, I will contact you again via email. Thank you very much.
Thank you.